talked about Angelina Jolie in the past and how much I've always admired how much work she does to help people in need. And today she has posted to Instagram to talk about her thoughts on what's been happening to Palestinians. She posted saying Jabalia's refugee camp is the largest of the Gaza Strip's 8 refugee camps. After the 1948 war, refugees settled in the camp, most having fled from villages in southern Palestine. The camp covers an area of only 1.4 square kilometers. 116,011 Palestine refugees are registered with UNRWA in Jabalia camp alone, 75 years since the 1948 conflict. He then took to her caption to follow it up saying, "This is the deliberate bombing of a trapped population who have nowhere to flee. Gaza has been an open-air prison for nearly 2 decades and is fast becoming a mass grave. 40% of those killed are innocent children. Whole families are being murdered. While the world watches, and with the active support of many governments, millions of Palestinian civilians, children, women, families, are being collectively punished and dehumanized, all while being deprived food, medicine, and humanitarian aid against international law. By refusing to demand a humanitarian ceasefire and blocking the UN Security Council from imposing one on both parties, world leaders are complicit in these crimes." And right now, Palestinians in Gaza are at the point where every 6 minutes a child is being killed. Meanwhile, today in the New York Times, this was written: "It became evident to U.S. officials that Israeli leaders believed mass civilian casualties were an acceptable price in the military campaign." In private conversations with American counterparts, Israeli officials referred to how the United States and other allied powers resorted to devastating bombings in Germany and Japan during World War II. It's almost like the message they're sending is, well, since the U.S. did it, why can't we?
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Well, first of all, Angelina Jolie is always going to speak her mind, and she's always going to speak the truth, unless it has to. We'll talk about that later. But word on the street is that old Sleepy Joe is starting to wake up. He's having a bit of buyer's remorse. He's starting to see that what he's being told by BB from Philly isn't the truth. Now, did I see this awakening coming? Yes. Did I see it coming before he was on his deathbed? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But one thing that we all forgot, Joe Biden has grandchildren that he is very close to. There is no way he's going and working from home on the weekend and the grandkids are coming to visit him and they're not showing him what we all see on social media. I'm pretty sure things are getting real tense within the Biden family with their Zionist, big Z Zionist beliefs and the questions these young adults and these children now have because their beliefs are not adding up to the real world. Plus, since with Blinken over in Israel and BB from Philly going, nah, we're not going to negotiate. We'll stop bombing them when they give us the hostages. That's like saying, I'll stop punching you in the face when you stop crying and bleeding. And let's not forget today, proper protocol was taken. There was to be a caravan of ambulances. It was called in, the route was given. The ambulances were bombed. And if you missed my history of the Iron Dome, you might want to check that out over on TikTok. And I did that to let y'all know not only who funded it, surprise, surprise, United States, who continues to fund it, surprise, surprise, United States, but also how it works. Because everybody was so stunned at how Hamas got around it on October 7th. There's no way to get around it. Are you catching what I'm putting down? The more this unity government of Israel wants to talk, and they're trying to bombard the news cycles every single day, the more they talk, the more I question them even more. Because I am now to the point, y'all know I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I am now to the point where I'm like, who really jumped this shit off on October 7th? Because if you live in an area where people won't even give you clean water, you can't get fuel into your area without it going through other people. You can't get the humanitarian aid that other countries have earmarked for you without them. You went a period of time where they wouldn't even let you have potato chips. How'd you get weapons? I still have questions over hostages being taken on golf carts. And the inconsistency in these hostages surfacing or being turned over. But now I'm really seriously, I got questions. Like, really, was that Hamas on October 7th? Because when the body cam footage came out, how the fuck did they get GoPros? And let's not forget the Hamas soldiers that were found dead with plans written out in detail on them. These are people with years of watching and planning, and that's my soapbox moment regarding that. There are some great updates today. Whoever has been joining me in emailing, tagging online, and just bombarding the news stations, slowly but surely, they are starting to tell the truth and show the truth, slowly but surely, as to what's going on. I haven't missed much of them telling the truth, but I've grabbed as much as I could and put it out there for everybody. Now, last night, it came down the wire that Mr. FTX, Bitcoin King, the arrogant of the arrogant, affluenza numero dos, Sam Bankman-Fried, was found guilty on all the charges against him in the FTX fraud trial. Now I got a little bit of a breakdown for y'all. So, the trial wasn't even about cryptocurrency. It was strictly about fraud. I see a lot of people taking this as an opportunity to just crap on cryptocurrency. I don't subscribe to cryptocurrency. There's really no regulation about it. It's until I can take it to the store and use it at the store. No, it's no different than the NFTs. Do you really own it? You're just licensing it, leasing it for a period of time. I'm not leasing my money. But it took the jury a whopping 4 hours to find him guilty. And this was approximately after a 4-month trial. There was overwhelming evidence, and testimony that was included came from his inner circle of friends that admitted to lying for him and him lying to them. Bankman-Fried got pissed off and his ego got the best of him when his friend circle was testifying against him. And he decided, you know what? I'm going to take the stand and I'm going to testify as well. To be so young, dumb, and full of cum. So he was who, per testimony, he was the person that brought all of these friends in the friend group together. They didn't know who each other was until then. One minute into the cross-examination, this proved even to him that him taking the stand was a bad idea. He was hit with what he had previously said and done, including social media posts, emails, text messages, you name it. The prosecution knew about the specific spreadsheets that he would review before lying to investors. He was able to gather some of the most savvy investors with very little vetting at all. He would pitch to these investors and celebrities while playing video games and pretending to ignore them. He even presented to BlackRock's investors. Now, there are a lot of people that were like, well, how could he do that? He was just playing video games. First of all, are y'all not familiar with Anna Delvey? Rich people act like they are smarter than what they are. They are not. Wealth does not necessarily equate to intelligence, number one. Number two, these are people who are also consistently surrounded by yes men and yes women. Just yes people all together. So anybody who's acting like, I don't really need you. Okay, whatever. They're going to jump on because they're like, oh, this person doesn't want me for my money. Yes, the fuck they do. Y'all don't ever work on a personality. Nobody's around you because you're a good person. They're around you because you're going to pick up the bill for a tax write-off. So it's not a shock. It's not a shock that they're the easiest ones to scam. It's not a shock that they would be so impressed that a 20-something-year-old would sit and play video games while convincing them to fork over millions of dollars. Now, his father was a part of the company, and it was proven that the father was a part of group chat messages, but they were on auto delete, so nobody knows exactly what the father knew. Now, the parents never publicly questioned him about his guilt or innocence. We don't know what they did behind closed doors. But they were there for every day of the trial, except during the prosecutor's closing arguments. They came in, they kind of gave him a head nod, and they walked back out. They were in court when a family friend confirmed that Bankman-Fried was guilty of fraud and that they, were trying to pull in family friends and family members. The sentence that he faces, it might deter some other fraudsters. And it's like, it's about time, because I still remember Enron. But your boy, when it comes down to sentencing, he could face up to 115 years in prison. $115 years in prison. I hope it was worth it. Now, he was known to have donated on both sides of the aisle politically to different things. Your boy was holding back. No, he was just crisscrossing the aisle. This is somebody who also said that once you're over 40, you're worthless. And you know what I think is funny is that the past two generations, they tickle me. They have this age where they think everybody's old and useless, as if they don't ever plan on reaching that age. And they'll be the same ones to reach that age and go, why they put me in the corner? Why they acting like I'm 167 years old? Because you don't want to put it in their head that they're useless. But we do have a little bit of like the beginning of an avalanche to good news. And it's regarding health insurance companies. Take a look.
You guys know how health insurance companies, they got this racket going on called prior authorizations, where they basically get to practice medicine without a medical license. Well, people are starting to fight back. In New Jersey, there's a bill that's about to go to committee on November 20th. It's a prior authorization reform bill. Here are the bullet points. The bill ensures an actual peer-to-peer review by a physician in the relevant specialty. It decreases turnaround time to 3 days. It also exempts generic medications from the prior authorization process, among other things. Now, the bill is not perfect, but we can't wait for perfect. I don't want to sound dramatic, but if we don't do something, United Healthcare is going to take over the world. So here's what we need. We need healthcare workers, we need clinicians, patients. We need people writing letters to these legislators, letting them know why prior authorization reform is so important. Tell your stories. I've included a link to a website where you can put in whatever you want, submit, and it will go to the legislators whenever they look at this issue on November 20th. And here's the best part. There are groups in 29 other states waiting to see what happens in New Jersey to see if this gets passed. And if it does, that's going to give more power to those groups to enact their own prior authorization reform bills. This is really important. So join me and so many others who are working to fix this. Let's do something about prior authorizations. I'm so fired up right now. I might record another sternly worded video where I dress up in a costume and talk to myself. Let's go.
Like I said, it's the tip of the beginning of an avalanche. Where are you going to fit yourself in at that avalanche? Now, we do have an update regarding Menendez Manor. And this episode of Menendez Manor has Senator Fetterman squaring off with none other than, you know, your ass did it. This is the second time we done busted you, Bob Menendez. Now, Fetterman, if you remember, he is the first Democratic senator to call for Menendez to step down and just resign completely from the Senate. Fetterman has introduced a resolution to bar any senators indicted for crimes affecting national security from classified security briefings. And this is how slick Fetterman is, okay? Everybody worried about his dress code. They need to be worried about the fact that he actually came up there to do the job that he was voted in to do it, and he seems to be doing it well, okay? Now, the resolution doesn't specifically name Menendez. That means not only can it be used against Menendez, it can be used in the future. Like this can be perpetual. Okay, this will not be a one-stop shop. If passed, Menendez will be stripped of committee assignments, not just because remember, due to the ethics agreement, he had to step down as chair. But this would make him have to step down from the committees altogether. He will be stripped of his committee assignments and barred from classified briefings about national security. Currently, Fetterman is the only one that's backing this resolution. Now, we know that it took a couple days after he was like, hey, you need to resign. Then other Democratic senators and Democrats on Capitol Hill were like, Fetterman does have a good point. Hey, Bobby boy, Bobby no Boucher, you might want to get on out of here. So I say give it a couple days and see if this picks up any momentum. But a few days ago, old Bobby boy was in a classified briefing regarding Israel. And when asked, why does he keep going to these meetings? He's like, well, I need to know the information. No, you're the last one that needs to know this information. Okay, because you seem to tell your wife everything. And we don't really know who all she talking to, but both of y'all are like colanders during hurricane season. You can't hold no amount of water. You couldn't even hold dew on your fingertip. No. Now, there is no current movement towards a floor vote, but like I said, give it a couple days because we know Democrats sometimes are slow on the uptick. Now, Senator Schumer, although he's been fielding a lot of calls saying, hey, you're our leader over here, tell him to get up out of here, because as a senator, he still has access to the information that he's under indictment for selling. So we can't have this. We got enough issues going on. Did you forget about Taiwan? You forget about Israel and Palestine. You forget about Russia and Ukraine. You forget Kim Jong-un still looking at us sideways like he want to tussle, like he want to pass these skippity paps. But, you know, it seems like the whole Schumer family is just bitch-assed. And before you go, Taz, that's a reach. No, it's not. They're cousins. Senator Schumer and Amy Schumer are cousins. Google's free, y'all. Google's free. Now, before we get deep into all of the shenanigans regarding the Trump family, court dates, testimony, and everything else, Talk about Hakeem Jeffries regarding what? Hakeem Jeffries isn't a senator. I'm confused on that one. But before we get into all things Trump and the courts today, because I don't know why they do this to me every Friday. Every Friday, the Trumps are like, here, hold my beer. Let's fuck her up with as much news as we possibly can. Let's talk about white migration.
And do you know where so many of them left for? Israel. A ton of white South Africans converted to Judaism after the end of South African apartheid and immigrated to Israel. I wish I was making this up. Like, it is incredibly absurd, but true. There were even former pastors who converted to Orthodox Judaism to move to Israel because it was seen as a safer colonialist state for white people after the fall of South African apartheid. And Zionists still have the audacity to say that Israel is not committing apartheid like South Africa. Literal white South Africans who benefited from apartheid fled South Africa for Israel because they thought it would be better for them. And a lot of these South Africans who converted to Judaism to move to Israel have purposefully moved into illegal settlements in the occupied territories, have caused extreme violence against Palestinians. Another thing about Israel that doesn't feel real, but is. And do you know where so many of them left for?
I love when y'all start talking about South Africans because I will retell this story every time. So there's a company based in South Africa that works with my company, and none of them are black. I'm talking dozens. I onboarded every single one of them Dutch-ass names. By the 11th associate, I made the mistake of asking, y'all ain't got no black people in South Africa? They looked at me like, how dare you bring them up? Never asked that question again, but I did get curious with one. So I said, what made you want to move here to the United States? They said it was because of the violence they faced back at home. And the moment that did it for them, they were at a resort with their family, their kids, and everything, right? It was pretty much an all-white space. And then all of a sudden, black individuals hopped the fence and decided to get in the swimming pool. And they described these individuals exactly how white people describe black people here. They said they were loud, rambunctious, inappropriate. I'm waiting for them to tell me that they hit their child. When they were done explaining the story, I realized, oh, it's because you don't want to be in the same space. So then I asked them, I was like, what do you feel like people who don't look like you face here in the United States? They don't give a fuck about that. They just want to be special again. Oh, and they followed up with saying that they are a true African American over black people here in America. I think some people die on that hill. It's not all of them that are bad, but it's not a lot of them that are good. God, that tainted my entire outlook on white South Africans. It really did. Please prove me wrong. Please, I know there's some good ones out there. I also must add, I do not believe that there is no violence that white South African individuals experience. I feel like they feel like it comes out of nowhere.
Now, do you have a better understanding why certain people are defending Israel so staunchly and why so many of these people that are now making the rounds as the face of Israel sound no different than you and I? They have a very United States accent because that's what they are. And what tickles me is that they're like, we're the true people there. You don't. Here's a problem with ethno-religions. Because people will convert to the religion of Judaism and take on this persona as if they're ethnically Jewish. And they're the ones you hear arguing the most, going, you probably just think that I'm a white woman from America, because you are, Beckiana. Because you are. Just like if somebody converted to Christianity, does not change their ethnicity or their race. You still white. But as far as Hakeem Jeffries, Mr. APAC himself, it's not surprising that he told the squad that what's going over in Israel isn't an ethnic cleansing. That's what happened. But he also doesn't back the bill proposed through the House, that passed through the House, for aid only to Israel that would increase our deficit and fuck up things for the IRS. It was another day as Hakeem Jeffries. But hold on. Now, one name that has come up here lately since the McCarthy ousting, since all the shenanigans in the race to Speaker Mountain, Miss Scarlet Letter herself, Nancy Mace. And here's the thing, with everybody so worried about the GOP tussling, there are some power hungry individuals. That's why I keep telling y'all, keep an eye on Mike Johnson. He's out for power for himself. He's giving very much Pinky in the brain. And he's the brain. And I'm saying according to the characters, because if you paid attention, Pinky was the one that was actually smart. Brain was just egotistical. But then right behind him, you have Nancy Mace. When I tell y'all that politics nowadays is just about power, coming from the Daily Beast. Ooh, okay, hold on. Something got in my eye. Sorry, you guys. Oh my goodness. Oh wow, it is really messing with my eyeball. Okay. Why does it not want to let me open this article now? Okay, here we go. Nancy Mace's staff guide shows her true priority. Nancy Mace. Well before her fateful vote to remove Kevin McCarthy from the House speakership, Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina arrived on Capitol Hill as a freshman lawmaker with a grandiose vision of her role in government. In a strategy memo she wrote in 2021, Mace described herself as the freshman thought leader on federal issues, according to a copy obtained by the Daily Beast. The confidence the Republicans have, especially when they have a vagina. Nancy is thoughtful and hardworking on issues important to the Low Country, the memo reads, referring to the swath of coastal South Carolina she represents. Former staffers told the Daily Beast it was written entirely by Mace. For Mace, though, what seems to matter most isn't what kind of attention she gets, just that she's at the center of it. Mace aids a profile, drawing on Mace's 2021 strategy memo, a current internal handbook for her congressional staff obtained by the Daily Beast, and interviews with 3 former Mace aides, a profile emerges of a politician obsessed with her public image and fixated on winning herself as much exposure as possible, often to the dismay of her staff. One former senior aide to Mace recalled asking themselves one question more and more during their tenure in our office. Are we in a PR firm or are we working for a member of Congress? It recently came out that she voted in favor of ousting McCarthy so she could use that to hit the media circuits. There are people on her staff whose sole job is to call around to get her multiple appearances on TV. She's more concerned about being on TV, being on radio, being on podcasts, and being seen than anything else. I will say, the GOP, they're about small government, small federal government, and small work within the federal government. Everything at who child. Now, leading into the Trump debacle, y'all remember Sidney Powell. And y'all remember that everybody who's taken a plea deal thus far must pay restitution. Well, the person that they have to turn the money into, and it's amazing that all these rich folks are now needing to make payment plans. But he said he's not going to sit back quietly anymore. Y'all want to hear what he got to say? Of course you want to hear what he got to say.
Y'all, Gabe is not playing. Gabe Sterling is Georgia's Secretary of State, COO. The check that he's holding is from Sidney Powell. It's her restitution check. And let me tell you, Gabe ass went hard for his state. And he is feeling some type of way. Watch the video.
For 3 years now, we've had people lying about our elections in Georgia. We've now begun to see the accountability that take place. So yesterday afternoon, we received our first restitution check from Sidney Powell. It's a small down payment in which we owe to the voters and the people of Georgia. It's $2,700. But the lies that she perpetrated in behalf of an overall greater lie has undermined people's faith in our systems, in our country, and their fellow Americans. It was wrong then. The tides that have come from that have continued to damage families, election workers, and Georgians and Americans. We're at a point where there needs to be accountability across the board. Georgia does a fantastic job running elections. We are voted number 2 by Heritage Foundation in election integrity. We're tied for Colorado election administration by the Bipartisan Policy Center. Our laws are secure. The 2020 election was the most secure election in American history. The 2022 election was more secure than that. And the 2024 election is going to be even more secure than that.
Especially since it's looking like Sydney is about to line herself up to end up getting sent to the clink anyway, because no sooner than the ink could barely kind of dry on part of her plea deal, she took back to social media because she can't talk to mainstream media and kept the lie going. Honey, you already gave up the ghost, okay? You already gave up the ghost. Why are you still afraid of Trump? Trump can't do anything to you. But speaking of Trump, let's get into these Trump files. Now, remember, Ivanka, as of yesterday, filed again to appeal, having to testify in court, and she also filed for a stay of the trial, even though she has no repercussions from the trial. Now, for her reasoning as to why she can't testify is because it's in the middle of the week and I don't have any child care. As much as the Trump family loves to have cameras all over the place, Ivanka, we saw you taking a many trips for the White House and previous to working in the White House, and your kids wasn't there. And looking at footage, your kids are in school. In the middle of the day, your kids in school. I don't know any school that's going to be on break next Wednesday, because that's when she's scheduled to testify, next Wednesday. Now, if your school district got a break next one, tell me. But what school is on break next Wednesday? Now, the gag order coming out of the New York fraud case has now been extended to include Trump's attorneys, because for the second day in a row, to counteract the destructive testimony that Eric Trump gave, Eric Trump pretty much tanked the case. And I'm not just talking because we know they're already found guilty, and right now we're in the phase of how much in penalties should they pay. Eric Trump tanked any chance they have on appeal. We're going to get to how and why in a minute. Now, Donald J. Trump versus the 14th Amendment. Remember, we've had cases in Colorado, Mississippi, Michigan, and Florida. The Florida case was thrown out for now because there were not enough people getting behind it. If you remember, I said, if you know anybody in Florida, I told y'all what attorney to tell them to go to, all this good stuff. In Michigan, Trump is now suing the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, to ensure that his name does get on the ballot. Honey, it don't look like them people want you on the ballot, especially after that stunt you pulled during the UAW strike and all the stuff that you had to say about striking workers. Things are still going strong in Minnesota. The Colorado trial regarding this wrapped today, and the judge said that they will have their decision by Thanksgiving. So we will definitely be keeping our eyes on that. Now, regarding the gag order that was put forth by Judge Chutkan. Now, there are certain people that are going crazy on the internet today thinking that it's a victory. It's not. The appeals court issued a temporary stay on the gag order. November 20th is when oral arguments will be heard by the appellate court. The order previously prohibited Trump from attacking witnesses, potential witnesses, court staff, etc. This is an administrative order. This is a part of the administrative process. This is not a win. This is not like, oh, Judge Chutkan overstepped. No. The appellate judge must look over everything. And because every time anything is lifted for a period of time, Trump provides the evidence as to why a gag order should be in place. And keep in mind, there's already been an arrest made due to threats against Judge Chutkan. So they're going to go through the formalities, and just like the last time, because this is the second time that it's been lifted, because Trump's legal team just keeps trying to get it to go away, it'll be reinstated. They'll just keep going back and forth, I guess, as long as they can. Now, remember I told y'all, Eric Trump has tanked it. I know the attorneys are going to go through the appellate process and everything else and do their due diligence, but their goose is cooked, it's burnt, it's still been served, and still been devoured, honey. Now, remember when I told y'all it was a little off that Weisselberg, the former Trump Organization CFO, out of everybody that's been involved in stuff that worked for the company, one was allowed to just retire. He was never prosecuted singularly, but he is a co-defendant in this case. And then Weisselberg, who was prosecuted, found guilty, and went to prison. And he had to give up Trump org secrets and dirt on the Trumps. He still ended up with a $2 million severance payout. He's gotten approximately $750,000 of it thus far. Today in open court, Eric, dumb fuck, you were probably the least liked child at this point, Trump, per his testimony, admitted that the $2 million severance was a business decision that would allow them to prohibit Weisselberg from saying anything disparaging about the Trumps or the company, and it would prevent him from aligning himself with anyone who was going to come after the Trump company or family in any way. Hush money. Don't y'all think maybe you should have paid him that hush money before his first trial? And maybe the hush money would have been better paid to Michael Cohen, because it was Michael Cohen's congressional testimony that led to all the shit that y'all in now. But your daddy decided to just bad mouth Michael Cohen like it was just going to magically disappear. But yeah, that... Stupid is as stupid as named Trump. Now, keep in mind, there is no roadmap for what to expect Wednesday from Ivanka Trump's testimony. There is no deposition. We just kind of know what role she played in some of the deals that she was involved in. Now, we do know that there were at least 2 banks where she was involved in securing the loans, and that was contingent upon the appraisals that she received. But also, Ivanka is the only one of the children, of the 3 core children. When I say of the children, I'm not including Tiffany. I'm not including Barron, because DJT don't seem to include them either. That when the whole January 6th thing was going on, she was the only one that spoke up to her father and was like, look, you lost. Cut the bullshit. And she quickly severed ties and moved on. She's never looked for daddy's approval. Think about it. She's never looked for daddy's approval. She got her copyrights, her everything, even though she lost deals selling her god-awful, ugly-ass clothes. Like, she really still thought that it was 1980s and 50-year-old women were dressing in that shit. I like, what she was selling ain't even what she would wear, but I digress. She could be the one, if she comes in and decides not to plead the fifth. I'm not even going to say if she decides not to lie. Ivanka's not going to put herself in any type of jeopardy to go to prison. And the more I think about it, I think she's fighting against testifying because she's going to blow all of this out the water. She is going to be the final nail in the coffin. Because even though she's been missing, no one said anything. Even when it came out that she was buddy-buddy with the MI6 agent that put together the Russia dossier against Trump, he didn't say anything. So, and at this point, I'm wondering if she was the mastermind behind all of it and if they're taking a fall for her. Because as intricate as all of this is, the appraisals, the tax documentation, who to go to, what banks to go to, what appraisers to pull in, what accountants to hire, all of these things. This is too many people to trust. So there was a lot of vetting. There was a lot of research. Who amongst us believes that Donald Trump did that? Like, at this point, I'm wondering if they're throwing themselves on the sword to protect her. Because I wouldn't be shocked, because Eric nor Don were asked to come and work in the White House. They were like, here, babysit the company. But how much babysitting were they doing? I don't know. Now, before we call it a night, there was a bit of a topic that I saw going around the ticker talk that you might like my stance on it. You might come out the bag on me. Either way, y'all know I don't care. You know I don't care. So take a look at this. It's very short. Then we're going to get into it. All right? All right.
This girl said that she is not going to baby-proof her house, even if it's an invited guest.
I am not baby-proofing my house for somebody that doesn't live here. The entitlement of some parents.
In my opinion, if you have a friend or a loved one that you've invited to your house and you know that they have a child that you've also invited as a guest into your home, it's kind of your responsibility to accommodate them as a guest. If you're going to intentionally not do anything to accommodate the child, at least let the parent know that ahead of time, or just don't invite us. Otherwise, my kid is going to break your stuff. What's your opinion on what she said?
First of all, it is not a flex to go onto the internet and let the world know that you don't parent your child. Two, you should already know that no place outside of your home is going to be made to accommodate your child. And the woman that she's talking about is absolutely right. Why am I going to make changes to my home for somebody who doesn't live here? And I'm not talking about accessibility changes, because the way I have my home set up, because of my disabilities and disabilities of friends and family, there are things that are easily moved to accommodate them. That's one thing. Your damn child, tell me, why aren't you teaching your child how to be places? Because in raising children, I taught my children what not to touch, how to ask for things. You don't just let them, and it also shows what you're doing at home. You just letting them run amok, touch everything, stick everything in their mouth. Like, I am so tired of this. Everybody else is supposed to parent your kids, but not give you any advice, but not discipline your kids, but like, no. Now, I'm not saying don't go too far with it, because like I have one sister-in-law where she's gotten better now. Like the first couple times when my nephew started walking, she was like freaking out, and I said, it's okay. He's been here with my brother. He knows I set up a little area for the kids to play because the tiny humans are here. And I sit it down so they can play with whatever toys their parents bring with them. And that also brings me to this. Some of y'all parents, your whole goal is just to get rid of a diaper bag. Baby, you should have some type of bag for your children until they're a good 6 or 7 years old, because they're still going to need changes of clothes. They're still going to need wipes for their faces. They're still going to, and bring toys so these kids can have something to play with. Y'all sitting here cussing these kids out because they can't just sit there and listen to you talk to Mary Lou Who about whose dick her second cousin down the street's neighbor's best friend's boyfriend's first grade teacher is sucking. But no, I decorated my house for the adult that I am that lives here. No, and some people, if they were to child-proof their house, heck no. No, and if you can't watch your kids, then guess what? You don't go out. And these are the same people who get pissed off when their friend group stop inviting them over. And who said that me inviting you over meant that I was inviting your damn kid? Because I was friends, very loosely, we can talk about that later, with somebody who we all would make plans for as an adult, and then we get to the place and she done showed up with her damn child. And there's nothing child-friendly about where we're going into. This woman on double dates would bring her child. And I was like, yeah, not hanging out no more. This is some bullshit. If you can't get a babysitter, tell us, reschedule with us. But no. But if you show up and I invited you and you didn't tell me you was bringing your child, I don't care if the child is 5 seconds old or 55 years old. If I extend the invitation to you and you show up with anybody else and you did not tell me beforehand, I'll be like, new task, who this? I'm sorry, I don't know you. I think you have the wrong motherfucker. Like, stop assuming that your child is invited everywhere with you. Because they're not. They're not. You love your kids. And I'm saying this as a parent. You love your kids. The rest of us don't. The rest of us don't. You are used to you're accustomed to their shenanigans, okay? We just think that they're annoying as fuck, okay? You think that them saying 2 + 2 is 62 is cute. We looking at them like, is that from your daddy's side or your mama's side? We don't like them. We don't, because I would always ask people, like, what type of event is this? Is this an invitation just for me? Is this for the family? Is it me and the girls? Me and that, like, and I only started doing that because I would show up places because I would arrange for childcare for my kids. And then when they got older, if they wanted to go do stuff at the same time, okay, cool. I'll be back to pick you up at this time, bada bing, bada boom. And people were like, oh, I thought you were bringing the kids. Well, honey, you didn't specify that. You didn't specify that. But I could take my kids to a church. They've been to 5-star restaurants. They've been on airplanes. They wasn't acting a damn fool. Sorry, I don't have any sympathy, especially for the parents to get on air. They're just a child. Then prepare them for it and prepare yourself for your child's needs. Don't sit there and put them on a 7-hour fucking flight with no toys, no snacks, no juices, nothing. And then they run around screaming, hollering, crying because you didn't cover their ears up to make sure their ears didn't pop during takeoff or land. Like, no, that's not just how kids are. No. Just like all of us, you learn how to behave in certain environments. I'm tired of these parents just decide, oh, at 5 years old, they should already know that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And at 10, yep, they should just. How the fuck would they know that? God dang it. Like, stop assuming that at certain ages, all of a sudden your kids got knowledge because you still ain't got no fucking knowledge. Did you need to parent? This is why they're like, you're going to be all by yourself at 60 if you don't have children. What makes you think that your kids want to be around you when you turn 60? And if the only people at your fucking birthday party are going to be your children, that's more sad than not having kids. If y'all out here having kids so you can have friends, that's crazy. That something's wrong with you. And a lot of their, well, you know, it's our duty to have kids. Them the motherfuckers that don't raise their kids. You're a incubator and a nanny. Stop acting that way. But then get pissed when somebody like me tells you to come get your fucking crotch goblin from running around my motherfucking table at a restaurant before I throat punch him and send him back to the Lord. Remember, you like your kids. You can tolerate your kids. The rest of us can't. And I got grown-ass kids. And there are places I wouldn't take them because they would annoy the fuck out of everybody around them. The hell? Tell about my kids will just break your stuff. And bitch, I'll have you all up in the motherfucking court. Because you knew your kids was bad. You knew you just let them touch anything. Under the guise, there too. And if they cut their fucking bottom lip off, you too gonna be crying out my front door. And trust and believe, I will have pictures and videos of everything that they broke. Pay me my money. I'll turn into Rihanna real quick. Bitch better have my money. Somebody, my kids are just as he should. My kids will just come break your stuff. Don't play with me. Don't play. I'm not a violent motherfucking bet. I'll break your jaw. You and your kid gonna be leaving with some injuries. They gonna have injured self-esteem and you gonna have injured facial features. What do you want? Oh, time go. All right. Well, it's time to. What did you do upstairs? Because you came down here to give me kisses. Something's. And you've been quiet all this time. Now I'm getting kisses. Is the truce off? Is that what you coming down here to tell me? That you going back to trying to off me for insurance money? All right, y'all. Over the weekend, I will be reviewing Martha's Vineyard versus Ron DeSantis, and I will give you all a recap. I'm going to try to have it done by Sunday night. No promises. We'll see how that goes. Other than that, as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. I'll see you all on Monday.
Ding dong, the dumbass bitch is gone. Ding dong, the dumbass bitch is gone. Ding dong, the dumbass bitch is gone.